The best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. With complete coverage of the Utah Hockey Club, this is Cole Bagley of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Our show, as always, is brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Give it a shot. Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, and many other places in the refrigerated section. Give it a shot. Of course, this is the time of week that we get to jam with our Utah Hockey Club insider, Cole Bagley, KSLSports.com. Let's get to it with the cut. Let's kick off the hour as we always do.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And the cut this hour brought to you by an incredible selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram, and now the family of Mitsubishi cars, of course, in the Doug Smith family of dealerships. Nobody knows cars like Doug. There you go. He is Cole Bagley. He's our Utah Hockey Club insider for KSLSports.com. This is a pretty interesting team, Cole, because obviously the win at Detroit was huge. They ask you to do the back-to-back, in the Eastern time zone. You do it the next day, and you think, all right, they can get this one against the Chicago Blackhawks. It took a lot for them to get that thing tied up and send it to overtime, but they end up falling. They do get that point. How crucial was even just getting that point against Chicago in that trip on Friday night?
Yeah, it was huge. To go on a back-to-back road trip in the Eastern, Conference against any two teams and to pick up, 3 to 4 possible points. Obviously, it would have been, an even bigger deal if they're able to win both games and pick up 4. But to come back from down 3-1 in a game that they did not play particularly well in, especially in the second period as they were outscored 3-0. It was definitely a small victory to pick up that point because, when you boil things down, you get to the very end of the season, playoff spots can be determined by a single point. And so, there's 2 ways to look at it. They might get to the end of the season and think, man, losing out on that single point, that definitely cost us. Or they'll look at the other way and go, man, at least we got that single point. So, regardless, 3 out of 4 is great for this team. They need to keep, winning in that order every couple games. And as long as they, keep picking up points here and there for the most part, they're going to put themselves in a good spot to potentially make the playoffs.
Unfortunately, the Flames keep winning too, and the gap is 4 points again. I know you're watching this closely, keeping tabs on all the other teams. Has the situation improved, declined, or got better or just the same for Utah Hockey Club when it comes to making the Stanley Cup playoffs? Did anything happen this week that has changed the path, or is it still the same?
If you really want to take a look at deep analytics, their chances did lessen week over week. From the beginning of last week to now, I think they were at about 23% chance to make the playoffs a week ago, and now they've dropped to about 16. But, it's all relative. It's a tight race. Yeah, they're 4 points back, where I believe last week they started off just 2 behind. But, there's still a lot of hockey left to be played. There's still a lot of opportunities. They play Vancouver this week in a head-to-head matchup, so a 4-point swing. They play Calgary in a couple weeks. And that one could be even more important if they're still within striking distance. So it's not like the rails have fallen off at all. They're still pushing, they're still hoping, and I think the most important thing right now is they're playing meaningful hockey down the stretch when this organization has not been able to do so for about 5 years or more. Players like Clayton Keller, a young captain, is learning how to lead. Players like Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther, Barrett Hayton, Michael Kesselring, they're learning what it means to play with pressure, with eyes on them and really competing at a late point in the season when none of those guys have done that before. And then you're also kind of seeing, certain players like Karel Vejmelka step up and elevate their games so that this team can really mold into what their true identity is. So regardless if they make the playoffs or not, it's still a successful season, a positive season, and taking a step in the right direction in terms of the rebuild.
I saw the email yesterday about Connor Ingram and how he's not going to be with the team indefinitely, sitting it out as the league and the Players Association allow that indefinite time off as you deal with personal issues, and that was the case with him. Obviously, Veggie getting signed to the extension last week. Connor Ingram has battled a lot on top of losing his mom this past year and just all of those things. Can you tell us a little bit about what the league does in these moments where they say, hey, this is an extenuating circumstance here. This isn't a guy getting cut or anything.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program, and it can be used in a whole bunch of different ways. But when a player goes into the program, the assistance program staff works with the player for things such as mental illness, addictions. And, during that time, the players are not, they don't have to participate in games or practices or other team activities. And they still do get paid, their full salaries, and it doesn't count against the salary cap, kind of similar to, injured reserve and whatnot. They do have to be deemed ready and approved by the program for when they can return to normal duties. So yeah, it's a great asset that the NHL has put together to take care of their players. A lot of guys have used it for a bunch of different reasons. Connor, spoke out yesterday talking about how difficult this last year has been. He lost his mother to breast cancer. He's dealt with mental health issues before, and those have kind of resurfaced. And so he's utilizing this program to get better and putting his own health first, which is a good thing to see. So hopefully he can get back to a place where he's feeling better and he's more himself, and we obviously wish him the best.
It's pretty cool. Tonight's one of those pinch me moments, right? As a hockey fan in Utah, when you get to see a franchise as storied as the Toronto Maple Leafs come into the building. Austin Matthews, one of the best players in the game. What do you expect tonight, and how cool is it to have the Leafs in town?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's another pinch me moment. I walked past a bunch of the Maple Leafs players yesterday at the Olympic Oval. I got to speak with Austin Matthews, and yeah, I mean, these are the stars of the league. These are, this is one of the most historic franchises in the National Hockey League. I think when people think NHL, they often, think of the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially amongst the Canadian teams. So it should be amazing. It's going to be a great atmosphere. The barn should be packed, and yeah, I expect a hard-fought match, a hard-fought matchup. These are two teams that are desperate for wins. I mean, Toronto is in a better place than the Utah Hockey Club. They're second in the Atlantic. They're sitting in a good spot, but they've got some new faces. They've lost a couple games in a row, and so they'll be anxious to get back in the win column. And for Utah even more so, right? I mean, they're a couple points back, 4 points back out of the wild card spot. And while they have played some of their best hockey this season, they need to get back in the win column as well. So these are two teams that are desperate for wins. Utah a little bit more, but yeah, it should be fun.
Since this past couple of weeks, the team's been the most healthy it's been in a long time. They've also had some of their best success over the last stretch here, and we've kind of seen the best hockey that they've played over the past year in some of these last games. In terms of health and where everybody is right now, or is the hockey club missing anybody with the now famed upper or lower body injuries that we're going to see out for an extended period of time, or how have the returns of guys like John Marino been? Help us out with like the injury kind of picture of how things are going.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, this team is as healthy as they've ever been. Obviously, Connor Ingram will be away from the team for who knows how long, and that's difficult. Now it's going to be very much, Vejmelka is going to have to step up, and not that he hasn't already this season, but they're coming into the most important stretch of hockey this year. They're playing the most competitive and intense hockey of the season, and I would anticipate we're going to see a similar stretch to what Vejmelka did when Ingram was out earlier. Likely 80 or 90% of these games are going to be with Vejmelka between the pipes. He likes that. He says he kind of thrives off of continually playing hockey, but at the same time, he's a human being. He needs some rest. So we'll occasionally probably see Stauber here and there. But not having an NHL tested goaltender who has been around and had a lot more experience behind Vejmelka is tough. So that's something that we'll see how it turns out. In terms of the rest of the team, Nick Bukestad is still day to day, but aside from that, and obviously Robert Bortuzzo is still technically injured, and we haven't had an update on him for quite a while. I'm not sure if we will see him for the rest of the season. But overall, everybody else is healthy. They're playing their best hockey. Marino has fit in very well. Sean Durzi has been fantastic. He came down to earth a little bit the other night against Chicago. He was probably his worst game in a Utah Hockey Club sweater with a couple of critical turnovers. But for the most part, these guys are playing very well. They're healthy, and that opportunity is there. I know that it sounds like, they only have a 16% chance to make the playoffs. Well, the teams ahead of them, their percentages aren't that much higher. It's not like it's 84-16 in favor of somebody else. So still opportunities. They're still playing meaningful hockey, and they could still potentially get it done.
Did Austin Matthews today, or when he spoke to the media, talk about he's from Phoenix, so it had to be kind of weird for him to see the team move. But what did he talk about that at all today?
Yeah, he went into a fairly extensive response to what is it like to be playing in Utah, being an Arizona guy, and this was the team that you grew up watching, but now they no longer exist and they've relocated. And he said, it's bittersweet, but he recognized, there's not really anything he can do about it now. It is what it is. But he also said it's exciting to be in a fresh new market, a new place, and get to experience a new city. And then, somebody else asked him a follow-up on, how has hockey continued to grow despite, the Coyotes no longer being there. And, he said it's been growing for a long time. It's unfortunate that they lost the team. That was a major influence on him and his career. But he pointed out that, look, there's still lots of, guys coming out of Arizona. He named Josh Doan as one of those players. And he said it's important for himself and the other guys coming out of Arizona to continue to have an impact on the youth. And hopefully it'll keep growing, and one day the NHL will be back there. But yeah, it was positive, and it was interesting to hear him talk about it. I don't know if he's had much of an opportunity to do so, but he definitely recognized it.
Tonight's also an interesting conundrum for the Doan family. Can you explain that situation?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Josh Doan's dad, Shane, I believe he's the all-time points leader for the Arizona Coyotes. And he actually was working for the Coyotes back when they drafted Josh. He now works for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know his exact position, but he was joking around today, saying that if his dad and his family show up wearing Toronto Maple Leafs gear, that they can buy their own tickets. He also said that he has not talked to his dad since midnight last night, that they are enemies at this point, and he'll talk to him after the game. So you'll have to see the competitiveness of Josh.
I thought you were going to say he hasn't spoken to his dad for a couple months. It was like, no.
Jeez, he's taking us a little too serious.
Good 14
hours.
hours.
To play twice a year, man.
Well, Cole, we're looking forward to this one, and over at Delta Center, another home game that I think fans are going to be super excited about. So you've got a big one, of course, tonight. Every game from here on out is a big one. But then you get you get another Western Conference team coming in Anaheim on Wednesday as well. So big ones, and these are all. It's every one of them is important. Every point's important. So stealing a point from Toronto would be huge tonight here at Delta Center. So Cole, thanks for hanging out, man. We appreciate it as always.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.
There you go. That's Cole Bagley. His appearance brought to you by the good folks at Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. Man, the Connor Ingram thing's tough, but I'm glad the league has that in place. And I feel like it's so much more ahead of its time. I mean, it certainly is nowhere near the type of thing that you used to see back in the day. It's just like you're on your own, man. You're a professional athlete. Deal with it. Figure it out.
Think of all the players that back in the past that could have benefited from that were dealing with mental health issues or traumatic experiences they were dealing with, that had to turn to alcohol or drugs or other things. The good that could have been done, the help that could have been given, the things that could have been prevented. If we hear the stories about all these football players, basketball, whatever. It's great that the NHL has that set up for these guys to be able to get the help they need.
Speaking of Hercules First Credit Union, you could nominate that youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. The way you do it is you go online, dial it up. You can see on our website, kslsports.com/contest. Hit that button and nominate the youth sports volunteer that does a phenomenal job in your neck of the woods. And we'll honor those people every Thursday on this program. It's just kslsports.com/contest. Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals bring you that amazing program. All right. Jazz firing it up against the Celtics tonight, JJ. And, of course, we've got some tickets to give away for some hockey, for the hockey going on this week. I mentioned the Anaheim Ducks coming into town on Wednesday, 801-575-ZONE. Pair of tickets right now, 801-575-ZONE. We'll be back again tomorrow. Enjoy your Jazz and your hockey coverage. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.